A secret to tell you, and I'll tell you after I turn on Becker's microphone. Hey, Becker, can you hear us in there?
Hello, everyone. So happy to see you all. Am I coming through okay?
You sound great, yeah.
Excellent.
Now, I was just telling the guests about coral and about how it grows in very specific places where the sun hits, such as the equator. Now, let me ask you something, Becker. Is it warm in here or is it cold?
It is really nice in here. It is a comfortable 74 degrees.
That sounds pretty nice compared to other exhibits, especially say if you were to just go swimming off our coast. That would be probably like mid 60s, very, very cold. But this exhibit is meant to show you what a tropical reef looks like. Now, Becker, I was telling the guests how corals are alive, but I was about to tell them our big secret about these corals. Do
So
you want to tell them?
all of our coral is artificial, and you can see, and there's a couple reasons for that. I heard you saying earlier, and it's very slow growing, and it's very fragile. So it'd be very hard to maintain living coral in this exhibit. But we do have other exhibits on either side of us that do house live coral.
Absolutely. So after the show, I encourage y'all to take a look at the smaller exhibits where it's much more easier to take care of that coral. And just to talk about some conservation real quick, if you want to see where some of your money is getting put to use to, my friends, take a look at the cylindrical exhibit before you go. That shows our efforts with Sea Corps International. They are growing live coral with the goal of transplanting it out in the ocean. So that's just one way we help corals. Now, why do we want to help corals? Well, because it is such an important place, my friends. It covers less than 1% of the ocean floor, yet a quarter or 25% of marine life depends on it. So there's not a lot of it, and we have to protect it. It provides so much food and habitat to lots of different animals, such as the kind that we're seeing. Now, Becker, I wanted to ask, you've been to coral reefs and seen some of these animals, right?
So I have. This one here is modeled after a dive site called Blue Corner in Palau. Unfortunately, I haven't been lucky to see that one, but I have seen similar ecosystems, and I can say that this is a very good representation.
Absolutely. Yeah, have any of you in the crowd ever wondered where an aquarium or zoo gets the idea for how an exhibit should look? It's usually based on a real place. Now, like Becker mentioned, it's called Blue Corner. If you take a look at that left-hand corner, we did not get lazy or run out of rocks. That's supposed to represent the open ocean, where more pelagic animals are going to be coming from. Pelagic just means animals that spend their time in the open ocean, such as that spotted eagle ray that we're seeing to our left-hand side and to your right-hand side. Now, a lot of these animals have important roles or jobs to play. It's not like they're on the clock, though. They're not doing it because they love their job. They're more so just surviving. And you know what that reminds me of? Kind of like our cities. We're all just trying to get by, but in that process, we help our cities get by, right? A lot of these fish have very important jobs, including that spotted eagle ray. What kind of job do those animals play in the coral reef ecosystem, Becker?
Well, the eagle ray has its mouth on the bottom. And any animal that has its mouth on the bottom means that it's going to be eating off the bottom of the ocean. And so it's going to be scavenging and cleaning up and keeping things clean. And one of the really interesting ways that they do that is with a special sense organ that we don't have. On the front of their nose, they have little holes that can detect electrical fields in the sand. And I've seen them do this in action, specifically the eagle ray. It's really cool. They bury their nose in the sand, and they do a motion that's called undulation, which disturbs the sediment and the silt and stirs it all up. And they use that special organ to feel for things that are alive, and then they suck it up and crunch it.
Absolutely. So that's one way that one animal eats. Now, take a look at all of these animals. Take a look at this not eagle ray, sorry, cow nose ray there. You'll notice that they have their mouth on the bottom too. So you can start to see that, hey, look at where that animal's mouth is. I think I know where they find their food. Now, if you're like these fish that are roaming all throughout the exhibit, just take a look at any, and you're gonna notice that they have very smaller mouths. Sometimes it's even pointed. Now, that comes in very handy when you eat tiny, tiny things such as the algae that grows on coral. Now, take a look at those fish there. It looks like they're just picking at the coral, right? But they're actually eating, friends. They're eating algae that's growing on there. And while this coral is artificial, like we mentioned, it's not alive. The corals out in the ocean are alive. And these fish help them by keeping them clean, by eating that nasty algae that would grow on them and prevent them from growing. Now, we call them grazers. If you wanted to compare them to something in our city, they're kind of like the folks who keep our yards clean or our parks clean. If you didn't cut that grass, it would go like crazy and not let any other plants grow. So that's what those fish do. Now, just like our cities, everyone's very unique, right? But you like a lot of diversity. But it's good to take a closer look at sometimes. Just like that spadefish that is invading your personal space, Becker.
This is Bubbles. We're friends. Hi, Bubbles.
Yeah, Bubbles is a very unique fish. Now, when you start to look at it on a much smaller picture, you can maybe relate to a lot of these animals. This is their home, this is where they live. Now, imagine if something was happening to your home. Well, you'd be pretty scared, right? You'd want someone to help you. Now, coral reefs, they can't speak to us, but we know that they're dealing with some change in the ocean. It's getting warmer, and it has to do with things that we like to do. Now, I'm not saying not to drive cool places or to turn on the AC. That has made human life so much more excellent. But do it in moderation and think about how your actions affect the ocean. Now, I know what you might be thinking. How do my actions affect the ocean? Well, actually affect them in a wide variety of ways, and it's not always bad. Now, talking about conservation, how to protect something that is not necessarily that close to us, Becker, what are some ideas that you have on how we can protect coral reefs?
Well, there's a lot of things that we can do in our daily lives, little things that have a big impact. We can avoid single use plastics, we can avoid forever chemicals. One place you might not think about that is in your sunscreen. Make sure to use reef safe sunscreen. Even if you're using it in our local waters here, the water does tend to mix and spread, and eventually those chemicals might make their way to a coral reef and cause damage. And I know no one here wants that.
Absolutely. So that's a good point to make, Becker, that it's the little things that make a difference. And do you want to know something little that you did today? You came to the aquarium. I know. Just by doing that, you are helping the ocean. You see, we're a nonprofit, so all the money that you spend, whether it's on a ticket or membership, it all goes right back to these animals and feeding them and taking care of them, giving them medicine, but also to the animals out in the ocean. For any friends who weren't here in the beginning, take a look at that exhibit before you go. That's some of your money getting put to good use. That shows you our efforts with Seacourt International. Now, we can talk about that after if you want, but I wanted to give you one more idea on how you can help the ocean and really just conserve our planet. And it's very, very easy. Just talk. Talk to your friends, family, coworkers. Ask them, did you know coral was alive? And if they didn't, well, it's a discussion that can be started. And who knows, maybe you'll start a little passion in them. But one more thing that you can do, if you are able to, is volunteer. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Becker and all the other scuba divers you see throughout the aquarium today. They are all volunteers. They're here out of the kindness of their heart. So why don't we give them a round of applause real quick?
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. With all of that being said, Becker, I wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye and say anything last.
If anyone would like to stay around and take some shelfies, I'd be more than happy to.
Awesome. Thank you, Becker. At this time, I'll go ahead and turn off your microphone. And for any friends who stuck around, I'm so glad you did. I hope you learned something, made some connections with our coral reef. If you have any questions or if I didn't talk about something that you noticed, I'm going to be up here for the next few minutes. But if not, come on up, take some pictures with the scuba divers, or just take a closer look at the corals and the animals. With all of that being said, thank you so much for coming today and have a great rest of your day here at the Aquarium of the Pacific.